My lords, I'm delighted to follow my noble friend and pleased that he's been able to use the occasion of his maiden speech and long experience in the media and entertainment business to show support for the Live Music Bill, which of course is concerned with the promotion of live music entertainment and consequent support for thousands of musicians. The noble lord has a long and distinguished career in media and started at the Daily Mirror in 1960 and progressed to London Weekend TV in 1973, the BBC, Channel 4, the BBC again, and is most recently as executive chairman of ITV in January 2007. He stood down as chief executive to become non-executive chairman at the conclusion of regulatory reviews into advertising contract rights and digital television in April 2009. Many noble lords will have seen his programme last Monday on BBC 4. Recalling the days of music hall and variety. I think there are many similarities with your lordship's house. For a time, he joined the family business as an agent and was responsible for booking acts and planning variety running orders. Of course, in this house, the persuading noble lords to perform and planning a running order is the job of the whips. Agents are not involved. If the acts are put in the wrong order, the show can be destroyed. This has been very obvious in the last month or so, when old jokes and stories have been repeated ad infinitum by the same comedy acts, and the shows have overrun by several hours at each performance. The noble lord will be comfortable with a speakers list, despite the fact that there is no bill matter. A brief description of the intended speech might be a very good idea for contributions in the House. Today he is designated maiden. For noble lords who are unfamiliar with the theatrical bill matter, as opposed to matters concerned with bills, it was the description that acts gave themselves. Max Miller was the cheeky chappie, Spike Milligan was the performing man. I'm delighted to welcome the noble lord as another performing peer. At speaking position number 2, he's top of the bill this morning, perhaps sharing the position with the noble Baroness Lady Randerson. I congratulate my noble friend on his delightful maiden speech. It was informed and interesting. I'm sure we will look forward to many further contributions, but must remind him that jokes about playing the Palace of Westminster, comments about the size of the audience, and the use of props are not appreciated. My lords, I think the noble Lord Clement Jones covered most of the issues this morning. Under the current law, the performance of live music is regarded as regulated entertainment and must be authorised either by a premises licence or a temporary event notice. There are certain exemptions for religious music and music played which is incidental to some other activity which is itself not regulated. Until 2005, the exemption known as the 2 in the bar rule allowed 1 or 2 musicians to perform at premises where a justice's licence was in force. Small venues did not need a public entertainment licence for live performances up to 2 musicians. But they did need a licence if the 2 were joined by a 3rd musician, or if a succession of musicians performed individually during the course of an entertainment. This allowance was so important for thousands of musicians, many of them young, who under the current legislation find it increasingly difficult to find venues in which to practice and perform their art. I have campaigned on behalf of musicians for many years and again declare my interest as a member of the Musicians' Union, a very part-time musician and co-chair of the Parliamentary Jazz Appreciation Group and a member of the Performers Alliance Parliamentary Group. Live music licensing has been discussed for many years. On the 25th of February 1988, Douglas Hogg wrote to me from the Home Office. He said, "The laws on entertainment are there to ensure adequate control, specifically in terms of safety, in places of public resort. Licensed premises are exempt from these laws for a small-scale entertainment, primarily because when granted a justice's licence, the licence will have shown that his premises are structurally suitable for the sale and consumption of alcohol, which by necessity includes adequate health and safety provisions. For entertainment on a larger scale, such premises may not be suitable, and a further inspection under the terms of a public entertainment licence is deemed necessary. Musicians believe that common sense would prevail, but it has proved impossible to find a solution to this problem. I will not take up your Lordship's time by going over the old ground of Section 177 of the Licensing Act, which as a last-minute compromise was intended to protect certain forms of live music in small premises. The whole process exposed the Act's absurd over-regulation of the most innocuous live music against the light touch for canned entertainment, such as big-screen sport and recorded music. The restrictive legislation had serious implications for musicians who were prevented from performing and learning to play to a live audience. Many of our biggest-selling British artists started out by playing gigs in pubs. Section 177 has proved to be a complex, unworkable provision. There is no exemption from holding the required licence, and the government at the time considered that such exemptions were not necessary to protect live music, but were forced to compromise in this House to secure passage of the bill. In May 2009, the Culture Select Committee considered the Act's impact on live music and concluded that live music in smaller venues was decreasing. They recommended that the government should exempt venues with a capacity of 200 persons or fewer from the need to obtain a licence for the performance of live music. The committee also recommended the reintroduction of a two-in-a-bar exemption for non-amplified music. In its response, the former government rejected these recommendations. However, in October 2009, the government indicated that it was now minded to consider an exemption for live music in small venues with the capacity of less than 100 and would launch a public consultation on the issue. The Noble Lord, Lord Clement Jones, has covered most of the key differences between this bill and the last bill. I'm sorry to see the two-in-a-bar rule go, but do understand that performers did not agree with it. Blanket exemptions can be unhelpful. Two musicians playing loudly and attracting a large crowd might not require a licence, but three unaccompanied singers would have to be licensed. I'm pleased to see the removal of the definition of minimal amplification. The situation for amplification of instruments which are silent unless minimally amplified was never clarified during the discussions on the licensing bill or indeed in the Noble Lord's last bill. Under the new bill, unamplified live music, and I do hope that this includes minimally amplified, will be exempted anywhere between 8 a.m. and midnight on the same day, but can be removed in alcohol licensed premises if complaints are upheld. The bill also redefines the exemptions for live music in schools, colleges or hospitals and removes entertainment facility provisions altogether. After the election, the coalition agreement for the new administration undertook to, and I quote, cut the red tape to encourage the performance of more live music. In January, DCMS Minister John Penrose said, the government are currently considering options to remove red tape from live music and other entertainment. I hope to be able to announce our conclusions, including the timetable for reform, shortly. My Lords, I support the bill and also John Whittingdale's early day motion, which the Noble Lord, Lord Clement Jones, has mentioned already.